Have you ever had a day where every single solitary molecule in your body is screaming in pain, begging for the sweet release of death? Let's talk about video games. Batman is so fucking awesome. He's a ninja detective who fucks up clowns and eats mad pussy because that is very much, in fact, what heroes do. And I'm tired of you trying to convince me otherwise! He is a masterpiece, and I'm tired of pretending he isn't. Did you really think I wasn't gonna say that? Have you not figured out that I'm a hack yet? Where have you been? This video is already a train wreck, and I wish I was dead. This is barely a joke. I firmly believe that one day Bob Kane woke up and said, "I shall now make the greatest thing ever." And I guess Bill Finger was there too. That's kind of all Wikipedia says. He's so fucking cool and aloof and iconic and badass and imposing him. I spelled imposing wrong, and I'm not gonna pretend that I didn't. Even filthy casuals like myself, who have merely sipped at his teat and tasted the 90s cartoon and the Dark Knight trilogy and other random pieces of Bat media, can recognize what an icon this orphan billionaire bad bitch really is. God, that is the first time I ever said that out loud, and I know this may make me seem underqualified to judge the subject of today's video, but really, it just speaks to how enlightened I am to the shut the hell up, it's my video.
Fucking lazy millennials!
There was a Batman Begins game, but no Dark Knight game. And that makes me very uncomfortable. So unlike other franchise tie-in games of the time, B:AA actually does take its time to establish the world and characters for relative newcomers. However, it also knows that you're a non-idiot, so it decides to show instead of telling. It doesn't waste time, basically. We start with a bat signal in the sky and pan down to show Batman as he stops the Joker from being himself by taking him to the asylum. Again, they don't feel the need to explain what the Clown Prince of Clown did because this is fucking Tuesday. The point of this game is what happens next. So there's no need to show a big elaborate bank robbery scene or explosioning or whatever the Joker was doing at the time. This is a good move for pacing. And on the subject of pacing, I think I can count the number of times a mandatory walking section in a game has hooked me on one finger. Welcome to the fucking madhouse. The opening Asylum walk really sets the game out on the right note, not only by allowing the player to acclimatize themselves to the Dark Knight's default walking speed, but just letting you bask in the uncomfortable and grimy atmosphere of Arkham's Asylum before the plot begins. Joker's demeanor and constant verbal attacks to Batman and the Asylum staff sells his personality and shows that the devs weren't satisfied just having a recognizable comic villain to push units, but actually have fun playing with our villain's manic personality. This, coupled with Batman's Batman demeanor, subtly establishes their dynamic in minutes, and sets the tone for the rest of the game. Of course, the recasting of legends like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, who fit right back into their roles as Batman and the Joker, respectively, does not hurt. The atmosphere is also potent in this intro, giving you a nice look into the asylum. It really lets the game world breathe while giving you a lot to anticipate for later. For example, holy tits, Killer Croc looks boss AF! I cannot wait to fight him. Are you fucking insane? Eventually Joker breaks free and the universe makes sense, but the fact that the game took its time to introduce you to the world and characters, as well as Batman's unorthodox movement style, is a great first impression. With that said, you really are just walking in a straight line, and once you've hugged every intimate corner of this place looking for that last fucking Riddler trophy, you kinda get the point. You know what this place looks like, and it is an effing slog to go through it every time you boot up the game, and that's really the biggest barrier for re-entry in my case. I keep wanting to replay it, but then I'm like, do I really want to go through that hallway again? It gets annoying after like 4 or 5 playthroughs, and you will be doing more than that because this game is fucking fire, and here's one reason why. What the fuck emotion was that? Where in the multiverse do I start? Batman Arkham Asylum robots basically invented the free flow combat system, and it executed it so well that it spawned a whole ass slew of other games that also basically invented the free flow combat system, if you get my meaning. You love the combat, I love the combat. It's so boringly perfect that you're actually annoyed that I have to do this part of the video. It's crazy because on paper it's pretty freaking simple, almost mundane sounding. If I described this to you, you'd probably wonder why people even like this game. You have a whopping 1 attack button that you mash until everyone in the room not dressed like a nocturnal mammal is at least paralyzed, and B-Man forgoes the traditional lock-on in favor of having players just nudge the analog stick in the general direction of the nearest bitch, which works to keep the flow in No, I'm not saying that. That's fucking stupid. Having the act of fighting an unorganized cluster of baddies as a basic mechanic sounds awesome, but could also feel like padding if executed poorly. A problem these genius riot responders solved with 1 button. Countering is a simple yet versatile move that can be used in any circumstances to keep bitch A off your back whilst you're dealing with bitch B. An empowering moment with the added stipulation that, well, you have to time it right. So it's not as if you can mindlessly button mash, you need to pay attention to the ebb of the room. It's amazing that with 2 buttons, and maybe 3 if you're feeling cheeky, the devs made fighting a full room of guys, perfectly, might I add, completely feasible. Yeah, it's pink, you wanna fucking fight about it? Heck, the act of taking any damage feels like a tragic event. Everything goes black and white and unfocused. I mean, it's like they reshot your parents or some shit. Simple controls with combat that requires your full attention makes you feel like you're fighting a whole ass room of people. And I know I just indirectly said that this game makes you feel like Batman and you're all sick of hearing that, but my retort to that is I don't care, because I'm Batman. I'm also not going to avoid commenting on what an interactive adaptation of an iconic character is clearly trying to do just because it's seen as cliche by people I've never met. I will not censor myself, and we're moving on. I'm so Batman that I'm gonna save everyone, including this scumbag. Oh, never mind, I definitely caved his skull and he's dead.
World's greatest detective!
Combat does get a little more complicated later, letting you experiment with integrating gadgets into your rampage agenda and throwing guys with knives and armor at you that you have to stun and jump over before you can actually attack. And that's about it. Thing is, it doesn't really get more complicated than that, and that's not a bad thing, but just giving you a taste of variety to break up the usual combat and not really doing much else kinda makes later enemies feel gimmicky. Like they were legally obligated to at least do something slightly different. Now, to be strictly fair, that's only noticeable when you play the sequel, and obviously that did not exist when AA came out, so basically, fuck you, me. I can't believe I just said fuck you to Batman. On the subject of being Batman because I'm Batman because this game makes me feel like Batman. So what happens when you're just Batmaning your way through the halls of Amadeus Arkham's fine establishment, and you run into yet another congregation of bitches on Joker's payroll, but this time they pack the heat. Mandatory stuff! Yay. So yeah, like I literally just said in that last sentence, these gun-toting fuckboys have guns, and the guns have the powers of guns, so you do your own math on that one, B-Man. Oh, fuck that. Arkham Stealth is... it's kind of like breathing. You don't technically have to do it, but... oh, why is it so hot in here? It's very hot. It's not like that hot. It's not like a volcano, but it's definitely noticeable and uncomfortable. Oh, pain is everywhere. This would be an issue if Warden Sharp didn't have the fucking monopoly on gargoyles in Gotham City, but that fat-ass, rich-ass, fat fucking fuck. Even the sexiest of speedrunners know that you can't counter a bullet, much less a series of bullets, especially when they've already killed you. So direct combat is out, and these sections are dedicated to meticulously picking your opponents off with a variety of takedown moves that, well, take a guess. This is the beauty of Arkham's stealth. It isn't afraid to let you experiment with new ways to fuck with people in an almost improvisational way. The formula in a broad sense is always to clear a room, but sometimes they'll spice it up by taking away your coveted gargoyles or father figures. In addition to default takedowns, there are also context-sensitive areas that really let you play with Batman's arsenal. The door! God, I'm rich. This isn't anything new. However, Arkham Gear Arkham was the first Batman game that I know of to really make use of the most important tool in Batman's arsenal: fear. See, no matter how close to death you are, as long as Batman still has something resembling a pulse, you can still maintain control of the situation. Your vantage point gives you a full view of the environment, letting you pay attention to the rhythm of each room and plan when to leave the safety of darkness. It is genuinely satisfying to pull off successful takedowns. I'm Batman. I'm Batman! And pick them off one by one until the last poor soul is panicking and bleeding ammo. But the game still makes you earn that feeling by planning your moves accordingly. I mean, I'm basically terrible, so that was my experience. Seeing these villains I've hated for so many years taunt me through these iconic game over screens was the perfect motivation to be like, no, fuck you, I'm Batman. The downside here is, there's more than one situation where I felt like escaping was just kind of too easy, making you grapple in a semicircle until everyone's like, what the fuck? But other than that, and something else we'll talk about later, these sections strike a great balance between predator and non-predator. There isn't a word for that. I checked. I need to hand it to Man of the Bat video game. There are plenty of games where stealth and combat they don't get along. But this is not one of those instances. There's never a moment when I'm thinking to myself, you can literally turn invisible, you bespeckled fuck! The flow of the game is practically perfect. Practically being the operative word. Detective mode is broken as dick. You already know that detective mode is broken as dick. But in case you need to be reminded that detective mode is broken as detective mode is in fact broken as dick. He's Batman! He's always a detective! This button changes nothing! Backing up a bit, D-mode is a setting that can be activated by a hit of one of the shoulder buttons. It's used to highlight interactables and update you on enemy status. While setting up a crime scene and then following a trail to find your guys is distinctly detective, this mode just straight up plays the game for you most of the time. Go there, hit the button, go there to hold the button, and go there and hold the button. I am Big Brain. I don't really feel like I'm solving anything with this. This just kind of feels like a thing that I'm doing. You may think you'll just use it once to find that one enemy you lost, and then shut it off. But once turns into twice, turns into forgetting to even shut the fucking thing off, turns into, maybe this is how the world has always looked. Maybe we're all just red and blue skeletons who've only dreamed of skin. But I don't think so. That aside, I have to commend Batholic Anonymous for striking such a delicate balance. Leave it to Batman to take these two radically different gameplay styles and make them both mixed together so deliciously in a way that feels distinctly Batman. I'm not apologizing. Let's talk about side content.
If I don't do this, I don't live. I have to do this to fucking live.
The star of Bat Nipples Definitive Edition is without a doubt the titular Nipples. The Nipples being an insane asylum in this context. I cannot believe you're still here. A major W goes to the visual artists of this shithole. It's disgusting, grimy, and feels like it was thrown out into the middle of the ocean to be forgotten for years. And yet it's all so alluring. Each corner of this asylum tells a story, whether it's chilling messages from the late founder or a familiar icon from Batman's assorted rogues gallery. You'd be hard-pressed to find an Arkham fan that hasn't cleared every cell of this establishment. Of course, I would be remiss to not mention the real star of the asylum, one Edward Nygma. He makes the game with his unobtrusive riddles. I would have to say that every inch of this asylum has subtle references baked into them that fit into the world of the game well. Arkham Kong 64 is absolutely bursting at its seams with collectibles that are not just 100% fodder, but actually increase experience and unlock plenty of engaging post-game content. The game puts so much emphasis on nailing the Riddler's brain-busting antics that it in no way distracts from how lackluster the boss lineup is. We had to get to this point eventually. All the bosses in this game suck and are butt ass. How dare you! Each one has narrative reason to be there that relates tangentially to Joker's schemes. The Titan formula Joker wants is based on the venom that makes Bane go full anime. Ivy works with plants, so it stands to reason you would go to her to synthesize a cure for anime. The cast fits into the story very well. That's not the issue. The issue is the lineup of bosses is wildly inconsistent, and yet I can't say any of them are actually grasping at the bootstraps of being memorable. Rather than going through the broad formula of why AA can't boss fight properly, I have elected to lightning round this bitch. Join me as I lightning round this bitch. Kill me. Kill me. Do it. The prototype Titan serves their purpose of displaying what Joker wants to do on a much grander scale, and make his Titanifying of Gotham City a more tangible threat. They do at least work to give the game some stakes. This strategy is simple: wait for charge, throw batarang, dodge, repeat until death but not death because Batman. It's functional but not overly engaging, and this same fight happens too many times without enough variation to justify it. Still, as a mini-boss, I dub Prototype Titan inoffensive. If Proto-Titan throws a barely alive body at Batman, and the body dies upon colliding with Batman, is Batman breaking his no-killing rule? No.
The bat is bat!
Now riddle me this. What do you call a boss fight that stops being a boss fight to throw waves of enemies between phases to artificially lengthen the fight? Fucking guess. Okay, that's not totally fair. There is strategy here. You gotta wait for Bane to charge at you, throw the batarang, dodge, repeat until death. Are you seeing the problem? Okay, look, it's not a total carbon copy. You have to run up and strike Bane afterwards, so there's more engagement with this enemy. Plus, I like the 3 tubes supplying him with venom, acting as his life bar. It's pretty clever, actually. Thing is, this altogether doesn't really make for a satisfying boss in Rocksteady's mind, so you get a lot of this. This fight has my permission to die.
Boo!
I see you. It's time to get out.
Whoa, careful now, this one's almost good. So in a search for a bunch of seeds Batman needs to advance the plot, we find ourselves in the sewer with this Murder-Gator. It's fun to say, it's not funny, but it's fun. One hit from him will get you nommed upon, so we need to walk even slower than the default walking speed so he doesn't hear you. Going over that will alert Croc, making you quickly orient yourself to hit him with a well-aimed batarang. The setup is simple enough, but keeps you on edge enough to stay engaging. For 5 minutes. After that, I realize I'm literally just being asked to walk at the speed of The Dark Knight Rises opening act in order to grab a bunch of MacGuffin seeds so I don't alert a monster that literally goes down in one hit, posing 0 threat. Sure, it's unique enough, but it vastly overstays its welcome. If you like it, that's fine, and I get why. It's definitely one of the better enemy encounters in this game, but I could have done with far fewer spores. Why don't you just come out where I'm standing?
The fuck? Are we trapped in here? You need to tell me right now if we're trapped in here, because I'm gonna freak the fuck out.
Ivy's boss is actually pretty good. I mean, does that shit where she sends waves of enemies between phases. You know how I feel about that, but since Ivy can mind control the shit out of people, I can give it a pass. Yeah, other than that, Ivy's fight is a decent time with actual rules and attack patterns where you fight her for most of the fight. It doesn't ape other boss fights mechanics or have annoying one-off gimmicks. She is a wholly unique boss that uses established mechanics from the game. Not exactly chomping at the bit to do this one again, but it's perfectly serviceable. Thing is, in a franchise full of iconic villains whose popularity at times eclipse that of the main character, serviceable doesn't cut it. I'm genuinely hard-pressed to think of any antagonist that did anything remotely interesting.
Did anyone catch the game last
Did you think I was gonna forget? While not technically a boss fight in the traditional sense, Scarecrow's inclusion has left his mark on this series and is to this day my favorite use of a villain in the Arkham series, and I don't think I'm alone in that. During different intervals of the game, reality will shift into a world made up of Bruce Wayne's worst fears, as well as some of your own. These all culminate in a hellish stealth segment where you have to use the power of symbolism to turn the tables on Crane.
Oh, we were right there, man!
Being at the mercy of the Titanic Doctor is mechanically functional and engaging, but the real highlight is always what precedes it. You're given minimal warning before you have to watch reality melt away. One minute you're finishing up another mandatory fetch quest when all of a sudden...
Oh shit, here we go again.
Can we talk about this writing? This scene, this one visual, in addition to being a potent mindfuck, is also just a perfect encapsulation of everything Batman is as a character, conveyed flawlessly through his fears. Now, for the no % of people who have this game as their first exposure to the Dark Knight, this vignette perfectly shows Bruce's backstory, the isolation he felt after losing his parents and his motivation to fight the injustice that destroyed his family, all clever using an established mechanic from Batman's assorted history. I mentioned that I'm not as well versed in Batman lore as I should be, but details like this help the game to stand on its own as its standalone piece of art, and not just another adaptation. This level of strong storytelling through the atmosphere is not exclusive to when Arkham Man Dawn of Bat Wars story is playing with reality. The writing is consistently well-paced until the end. A great amount of exposition is given naturally and flows with gameplay very well, slowly unveiling Joker's plan to gradually raise the stakes without becoming an expository slog. Thank you, Oracle. As the narrative progresses, the feel and look of the asylum changes to reflect Joker's takeover. Less reasonable inmates begin to escape, killer plants start to grow as a result of his misuse of the Titan formula, all while he continually taunts you over the intercom. It never pauses for a giant info dump. It can keep you confined to the asylum and use simple things like routine voiceover announcements and atmosphere to maintain the threat on Gotham. It isn't anything groundbreaking, but it doesn't need to be. It's already a genuinely engaging and well-told story. And then the fucking ending happens.
This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it.
You may have thought I wasn't going to talk about this roided out mistake of a boss fight in the lightning round. You may be in the comments right now, I'm writing a fucking word salad essay about what a fuck I am for not going for the very obvious low-hanging fruit. But no, I was saving it. I was saving it for right now. For context, once you finally get to the Joker, the writing just gives up. Arkham's penis has no idea how to end itself, so it just settles for having the Joker drug himself with a highly unstable chitin formula for the sake of having a giant thing to face at the end of the game, which is especially egregious because you don't even fight him. When he goes on a higher platform, for fuck's fucking sake! It's bad. Not revoke this game's gaudy status bad, but it is a bad note to end a masterpiece on. I will drink water when I am dead. Let's do In Conclusion. That's my new song. I wrote it with my penis. Trash-tastic ending aside, it's practically mundane how much fun Batman Arkham Asylum is. Wait, that was the real title. Yes, this fucker sports plenty of noticeable blemishes, most of which wouldn't be ironed out until its stellar sequel, but a flawed masterpiece is still a masterpiece. It's hard to get mad at a game with perfectly balanced stealth, a masterful free-flowing combat system that it might as well have invented, genius puzzle solving through its use of a variety of items, and all of this culminates in an excellent game that is still fun to play today. In fact, I'm just gonna say it, and y'all don't want to hear it because it's true, but here we go. Batman Arkham Asylum makes you feel like Bat.
Don't you believe it?
I'll see you next month.